Okay, so to begin with, I want to show you a little video which I downloaded today. I'm going to comment on it. Let's see if I can get it also on the screen over here. I don't know when this video was taken, but it has several points which have to be addressed.
This is a file, or
It's a file. It's a file.
Wi-Fi doesn't work well?
No, I don't need it. I anticipate that. I also have somebody asked me to share, but not now. Let's see, we'll do it later. Okay.
Because after much, you get a break.
Why don't they do Marvin like 8?
Why don't they do that? Because you learn that.
Okay, let's see if you can hear this. Let's see if we can get this on here too. Now, this is the Kusner Rebbe of Borough Park.
There we go.
I turned off the sound for the turn on. Koson, it's Koson.
Anything that you could buy in the Goyish world to a Yid. We have to know that what a Goyish psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist, whatever you want to call them, philosophist will write and say has no meaning to us Yidden. A Yiddish neshama comes from a completely different place than a Goy.
Okay, so what a non-Jewish philosopher, therapist, anything says has no connection to a Goy, to a Jew. Because when a Jew comes from a completely different place than a Goy. Okay, did everybody hear that, basically?
Goy's neshama comes from Sitra Achre, Klippe, call it all evil names. He only looks outwardly like a human being, like us Jews. His neshama, his soul, his heart is completely different. If we know the Novi Yeches.
Did you get that? The neshama of the non-Jew is from Sitra Achre, which means the other side, the side of evil, from Klipa, which also means the same thing. Said, call it whatever you want. And what do you say afterwards? The soul is what?
Something about his heart is different.
His heart is different.
They look like humans.
What?
So
They look like humans, right? They look like humans, but they look like us, and they look like humans. Okay.
He's quoted in the Gemara.
Okay.
Where do these ideas come from?
I'm going to talk about them. Yeah.
Besar chamoydim besuram, zir masisim zir musam.
Besar chamorim soram zir masusim zir musam is a Gemara in Yavamis. The Gemara in Yavamis says that a non-Jew does not have a father; they only have a mother, and that's why a non-Jewish father is allowed to have relations with their daughter, because there's no such that a father's relationship to his child among non-Jews is a relationship of an owner to a slave. The child belongs to the father, but the father is not biologically the father. Now there's a bit of a contradiction there, because we say that by nations of the world, the father determines which nation they're from. But that's because there's an ownership relationship which is passed down, and therefore there also is by non-Jews a relationship of inheritance. A non-Jew inherits his father. So there's a choshen, we put it in more lomdisher terms, there's a choshen mishpat, there's a monetary and a hereditary relationship between parent and child, between father and son or daughter, but there is no biological connection. And again, it doesn't mean literal biological, but in terms of Even Ezer, in terms of halachos which have to do with personal relationships. Okay, that is Gemara Yavamis, and that's what Gemara says. That, again, there's no, the reason why that is because Gemara says, Afkere Rachmana Lazare. The Torah made his seed as if it doesn't come from him. In other words, as if the woman herself gives birth, but not that the seed comes from the father. And the Gemara learns that from a pasuk, which is it's not probably it does obviously it's not come from the pasuk itself because the pasuk is in Navi. We don't learn halachos out from psukim in Navi, but it says we always talk about some particularly nasty nation. I forget which one. He says zir masusim zir masam. Their stream is like the stream of horses. So the euphemism is understood to be kind of like a euphemism for the seed of the fathers. That the seed of the fathers is not considered to be there's no Even Ezer. There's no relationship in terms of being prohibited between the father and the daughter. But again, the father is still the father and the daughter is still the daughter in terms of all other halachas. It's a very difficult distinction to make, but the Gemara makes it. Okay. Now, but this Rabbi Rottenberg from Borough Park is saying is that this means that the non-Jews are donkeys, and the non-Jews are horses. You find things like this in Rashi and Chumash too. You find in Rashi and Chumash when it says that the Yishmael and Eliezer should stay with the Chamor, right back from the Akedah. It says Am Hadom El Chamor. Right, that the Canaanites were like donkeys. Okay, but so we'll come back to that in a second. But I want to make clear what he's saying.
Ari, could you interpret this for the most that don't understand?
No.
You can. It's okay.
No, he doesn't want to translate.
The Navi equates them to Chamoidim and to Sissim. So we can't bring any raya from them, all the kind of philosophical explanations what you have for the public school kids growing up in public school to our kids. It's a different story completely. Agav, I remind myself talking, there is a Chassam Sofer which says he does not understand how we could buy anything in medicine from what the Goyim, the doctors practice from Goyish bodies. A Yid's body and the Goyish body is not the same. You can't bring a raya from what makes a Goy sick or healthy to a Yid. It's a completely different, even the body says is different. He doesn't understand how we buy medicine from them. He says we have to know that Yid is a completely different story, his neshama and his body. So if we go look at this, so don't take any rayas and any suggestions and any knowledge and any philosophy from the Goyish books. We have to go according with Torah, with Das Torah, and we have to be mispamel to Hashem. We have to that's the only weapon that we have. Tefillah El Hashem. Of course, with tefillah comes doing masim tovim.
Okay. So that was the end of that clip. So at the end of the clip, he second. Somebody's trying to call me. Fine. Yeah. So at the end of the clip, he's doing that the Chasam Sofer. And Chasam Sofer actually has a question, a problem in halacha, which is this Chasam Sofer died in the year 1840. So Chasam Sofer is not sure whether we can derive halachas, which derive medical knowledge about Jews from non-Jews. In other words, can you extrapolate from non-Jews' bodies and their health conditions to Jewish bodies and health conditions? Now, the way Rabbi Rottenberg of Kassan puts it, it's because the Jewish body and the Jewish neshama are not the same. They're totally different from those of a non-Jew. That's not what the Gemara actually says. The Gemara does have this suffix. The Gemara gives two reasons why their bodies might be different. One reason is because they eat non-kosher shkatzim or ramasim. They eat insects and rodents. And eating insects and rodents, the Gemara says, makes your body, might make your body temperature higher. And therefore, since your body temperature is higher, what affects you doesn't necessarily affect them the same way, or vice versa. What affects them might not affect you the same way. That's one possibility the Gemara gives. Then the Gemara says, no, maybe it's the other way around. Maybe the Jew's body temperature is higher. Why? Because we are always anxious about mitzvahs. Whether we're doing them right, whether they're doing wrong, what we're supposed to do. So therefore, our anxiety raises our body heat. So Gemara is not sure whose body heat is higher or are they the same. Is their body heat higher because they eat those substances? Is our body heat higher because there's anxiety, or are they both the same? So Chasam Sofer therefore says, I can't extrapolate from medical knowledge about non-Jews to Jews. Now the thing is, Chasam Sofer lived before the year 1840. There's a Zohar, which is a very famous Zohar, which says that in the year 1840, Tuf Reish, the Zohar says, it could be a different 840, but let's assume it's, so it could be a different, Tuf Reish is the year 6,000. So it could be a year, different year 6, which ends with, well, Tuf Reish means, Tuf Reish means 600. So it could be 4,600, 3,600, but we assume it's 5,600. So the year 5,600, which corresponds non-Jewish year 1840, the Gemara says, the Zohar says, the gates of understanding will be opened up. And we see that there's quite in history that's really true. That it's about that time that massive amounts of new inventions, of new analysis, of new knowledge started coming down into the world. And until that time, science, medicine, all these things were not really well known, not understood. And in fact, the Gra says that he once made a siyum when he finished learning all of secular knowledge. Because until the year 1840, you could actually know all of secular knowledge. It wasn't that much. After the year 1840, it expanded exponentially from year to year. So to the point that would be absolutely impossible today. But what the Chasam Sofer is saying makes sense from his perspective. He was still living in a generation in which bloodletting was one of the, and enemas were the primary ways of treating diseases. So therefore their knowledge of disease was very, very limited. So it makes sense to say that, who knows, maybe there's a difference between Jews and non-Jews. I don't know. Their blood might be different, our blood might be different, because nobody had the data. But today, when people have the data, obviously, Jews use the most modern, up-to-date medical methods in treating themselves, which were derived from data drawn from non-Jews as well. So to quote the Chasam Sofer, in this context, is very, very strange. It's really taking kind of outdated Chasam Sofer and applying it to selectively to understand this difference. But to go back to the beginning of this clip, which we showed. What's the right verb? Which I should know this. It's English. Which we saw. To go back to the clip which you saw. So he says the neshama of a non-Jew and the neshama of a Jew are totally different, right? And their neshama comes from the teacher Achra, from Klipa, and they're not really human beings. So so we have to understand something which is important. Like somebody mentioned before, that you can find this in the Tanya, the second paragraph of the Tanya. If you're going to be a real anti-racist, there are certain aspects of Hasidus and Kabbalah which you have to reject. There's no way around it. The moment if you accept Hasidus lock, stock, and barrel, then non-Jews are a subhuman race. It really comes across like that. Because there are sources, especially in Hasidus, not so much in Kabbalah itself, but especially in Hasidus, which make this argument that Rabbi Rottenberg is making, that they're Sitra, Achra, Klipa, and they're not really humans. So therefore, you have to reject those aspects of Hasidus. Now, let's make it clear. Hasidus is fantastic, it's phenomenal, it's great. You don't have to accept everything in Hasidus because you want to take the good things of Hasidus. On the other hand, certainly don't throw out all of Hasidus because of the bad parts of Hasidus which you perceive are negative. You don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, as it says. You have to always take what's good and leave what's bad. I'm sure in any system of philosophy, you can find that you have to be selective about some part of that philosophy. And the Hasidus is no different. But if you accept Hasidus literally, yes, there are 5 parts in the neshama: nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai, and yechida. And non-Jews only have nefesh and maybe some ruach, but they don't have neshama, they don't have chai, and they don't have yechida. So it means that they're different qualitatively than Jews. Or else you're going to have to say, which Hasidus will not say, is that no, even somebody with just the nefesh and ruach is exactly the same level of holiness as a person who possesses also additional parts of the neshama. Conversely, if you're a chassid, you're going to have problems with Gemaras would say, like Rabbi Meir said, a non-Jew learns Torah is like a kohen gadol. That's a very difficult Gemara if you're a chassid, because how could a non-Jew be like a kohen gadol? It's not possible, right? It's not possible logically. It can't be Kohanim. It's not possible theoretically. So therefore, they're going to have to reinterpret, recast, and any, as the saying in Hebrew, "Sharei terutzim lo ninalu." The gates of answers are never locked. You can always answer up something. You can always find an answer, an explanation, a re-explanation, anything. But the bottom line is that there's every school of thought which you are going to adopt confronts problems with other schools of thought, with specific points in Hasidus or Chazal or wherever other text you're using. I once had a Rosh Hashiva who said, I think it was a very smart statement. He said, you could take one Mamar Chazal, one thing in Chazal, and build an entire philosophy on it. And that philosophy can be any philosophy in the world. In other words, you can because Chazal have so many statements, and many of them are so ambiguous. Like, let's say, a certain person here tonight, he found a rabbi last night who he admires and adulates, and I think that rabbi is the Wicked Witch of the West. So obviously, ostensibly, we're both Orthodox Jews, both rabbis, and I hold one way and he holds the other way. So again, you can. I hold that he's twisting and turning everything. He probably holds I'm twisting and turning everything. Okay, but that's the way. That's what makes Torah so much fun, because everybody gets to argue and have their own point of view. But so that's as to the first point that rabbi made in that video, which is that the neshamas of Jews are different. The second point he made is this aspect again that there is this correlation between non-Jews and animals, which we find in many places in Chazal, and again, as I said, you can find in Rashi and Chumash. So we have to understand this, and you can say that this is just a teretz, an excuse or an answer, but what the Maharal says, that when you find something like the word chamor, ama domel chamor, it may not be taken literally that the non-Jew is a donkey. It makes no sense. A non-Jew is not a donkey. What does it mean? The chamor and the sus and the shor and all animals are representative of certain traits, and those traits are embedded in the terms which are used for that animal. So a chamor represents to us chomer, materialism. Chomer means material. Chamor is materialistic. Why? Because it's dull, it's thick. Right? The pasuk says, I don't know if it's true, but it's just a mashal. Anyway, Yadah shor konei v'chamor evus ba'alav. An ox knows its owner. By the way, you know what an ox is? I didn't know what an ox was till last week. I didn't know what an ox was till last week. I just found out last week. It took me 57 plus years, almost 58 years to find this out. An ox is a beast of burden. It's not a specific type of animal. I didn't know that. I thought there's what? Did you know that? No, right? When you learn Shor Shenogach is a pora, the ox which gores the cow, in Gemara you're thinking an ox is one kind of animal and a cow is a different kind of animal. Did anybody else think that way besides me and David? You see, okay. You're light. You see how many light years you are ahead of me? So, in fact,
I'm quoting you on that.
Go ahead. It's on tape. In fact, the oxen in the Middle East were probably a form of buffalo. That was a well, there are different kinds of buffalo all over the world, bisons and such like, bison and water buffalo and this buffalo, that kind of buffalo. So probably a form of buffalo because. Okay, I missed this one obviously.
He's from Buffalo.
From Buffalo.
Because the.
Yeah, he was Buffalo.
Excuse me a second. So the again, it's just on a tangent, but because Gemara I was learning with my chavrusa, Ibam Metzia talks about the shearings of the tail of an ox. If you find a lost ox and you shear it from time to time, you have to keep the shearings, give it back to the owner. And I've learned this Gemara many, many times, and I never bothered to actually look into it. I just look at, okay, sounds strange, but maybe there are shearings of the ox. So finally decided this year, no, I'm not gonna let this slide. Okay, the oxen have no shearings, right? And then I found out what when you cut off the wool. And then I found out that I was right. If an ox is a bull, a regular bull, the mate of a cow, it has no shearings. But if an ox is a buffalo, a bison, there is in fact a buffalo wool company for which you can buy garments made out of wool, buffalo wool. So it must be a buffalo. Okay, so again, 57 years. Here I'm thinking that an ox is a specific type of animal. It's not. It's a beast of burden of any type of animal, usually a bovine of some sort. Okay, so always bovine, some sort of bovine. All right, so getting back to what we said before, so the Chazal say that pasuk says Yodash or Konewa, an ox knows its owner. Chamor, a donkey, is so stupid, it only knows it only knows its feedback. Because it doesn't know its owner, it knows its feedback. So a donkey is considered to be dumber than an ox. I don't know if it really is, it really isn't. It's not material, it's all metaphor anyway. But the point is that a donkey represents to us chomer, that which is so materialistic, it's only concerned with its feedback. There's no knowledge nor concern with its owner. It's not a good pet, because it's not going to bond with its owner. It only has knowledge of its feedback. So therefore that is chomer, materialistic, coarse materialism. So when Chazal use something like the metaphor of Amad Domel Chamor, they're saying this nation was particularly materialistic. The Canaanites were particularly materialistic. And that's why they were destroyed, because they were so materialistic. It doesn't mean they're donkeys. There's something which anti-Semites have used against us throughout many, many generations. It's not what it means. It doesn't mean they're donkeys. It means that their traits are traits which are like which are donkey-like. You can say in fact, the pasuk says about Yisachar chamor gorem. We had it in the Parshas Vayechi. Yisachar is a donkey, right? That's what it says. So it says Binyamin is a ze'ev. Binyamin is a wolf. So that you think, Rabbi Rodenberg said, oh, you see, they call Goyim donkeys, right? No, but by Yisachar, he's also called a donkey. You can't have it both ways. Either here it's a metaphor and there it's a metaphor, or here it's real and there it's real, and then you're in big trouble. So therefore, taking that Chazal and using it kipshuto to say they are subhuman is a very bad thing.
I had this exact conversation with someone on the internet, like Friday or Shabbos.
And you didn't even see the clip I showed before.
And I said the exact same thing. This is wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're smarter than I. Smarter than I in many ways. You know what an ox is. You already had this kind of argument today. Amazing, Avner. Yeah.
Sorry, Rabbi, I came late.
I accept the apology with difficulty, but I accept it.
I mean, so.
But I don't have the etiquette of opinion.
That's true. I did say I have derech eretz.
So, if I'm correct, we're talking about that plus up we have. I think it's a Cheskel, right? We're talking about like the.
Zir mas chamorim zir mosam.
Yeah, that one. So, I mean, I'm sure you mentioned it, but I obviously missed it. Like, what did you say about? I think it's in the Gemara where the guy sensed the man who had relations with the woman. This is you know.
Yeah,
is there-
I
is
spoke
there
about it
reference to
some.
the
I
person
spoke about
born?
it some length.
So,
Yeah.
what I go together.
It's a technical halacha that there is no such thing as fatherhood by non-Jews, except in the sense of there's paternal ownership of the child, and there's the tribe is passed down by that paternity, but that's not a form of halachic relationship when it comes to halachas like Even Ezer of what's permitted and what's forbidden in terms of sexual relationships.
But this was a case of the. Like, this was
If it's
case
a
of
Jewish woman,
man,
a
right?
Jewish
Oh,
no.
was it Jewish man or Jewish woman?
No, Jewish woman. Jewish woman has relations. There are many poskim who say if a Jewish woman who's married has relations with a non-Jew, she might be forbidden to her husband, but the child is not a mamzer, for that reason, because after Rahman al-Zari.
So that's the only sense of that comparison is
Yes.
because they have no parent.
Okay. So in contrast to now. I don't know what organization he was speaking to, this Kassan Rebbe Borapar. It was obviously some parenting organization. He was speaking about parenting, and I don't know who made him the expert on parenting. But he certainly is not fulfilling another tenet of Judaism. And this is an Netziv, which I saw for the first time this week. The Netziv, Reb Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, who was the Rosh Hashiva Volozhin, passed away in 1892, if I recall correctly, and it was commentating the Hamek Dover as one of the classic commentaries on Chumash. He has an introduction to Sefer Shmos. I should say that his introduction to Sefer Bereshis, which I have not learned here any time in my memory, but it is extremely, extremely important, a fundamental work of Judaism in the 19th century, and it's worth learning perhaps at a different time. So Akdamat Shmos, which I just saw, the introduction to Shmos is important, but not as important as one of the Bereshis. Okay, so he says there's interesting language used by the Bahag, the Baal Halachos Gedolos. This is one of the lived the time period of the Gonim. He was the first person, Rav Acham Ishavcha, to compile a list of halachas as they emerge from Gemara. Okay, so that he was first one to take the halachas, distill them from the Gemara. So he lists of the 5 chumashim as follows: Sefer Bereshis, the book of Genesis; Chumash Sheni, the second of the 5 volumes of Chumash; Sefer Kohanim, the book of priests, that's Vayikra; Chumash Pekudim, the book of Numbers, that's Bamidbar; and Mishnah Torah, the addition to the Torah, that is Devarim. But so Shmos is the only one which has a very generic name, Chumash Sheni, the second Chumash. So why he says, why is it called the second Chumash? So the Netziv says that because it's the second part of Bereshis. Because Bereshis without Shmos is incomplete. Because Bereshis is about the years of creation and the years of the Avos, but until the Torah was given, at least until Yetzias Mitzrayim, but really until the Torah was given, the world was not complete. And Chazal have a language which expresses that. The language which expresses that is that Hashem made a condition with Shamayim V'aretz, with heavens and earth, on Friday, the first of creation, where it says Yom HaShishi, Tznai Hiso Kosh Baruch Hu Ma'aseh Bereshis, that hey, you're supposed to tell us that Hashem made a condition. If the Jews accept the Torah, the 5 books of Moshe, at our Sinai, the creation will be sustained. If not, the creation will be destroyed, nullified. Okay, so he says that therefore comes out the Yetzias Mitzrayim and Matan Torah are the fulfillment and the end of the process of creation. And he's Nimsa the Matan Torah Gemar Bir V'Hainu Hach Yetzias Mitzrayim. Why is that? She'azi Ruim Yisrael Kabbalah Torah. Then the Jews were worthy of accepting the Torah, Ulashlim Abrion and completing creation, V'Lavo B'Zel L'Tachlis Yitziasam, and thus come to the purpose of their creation. V'Arei Eitzel Am Hashem, and by the nation of God, this is Kamo Das and Noshi Umidos Yishol Shol Torah Adam. It's like human intellect and human ethics, literally straight midos, of individuals. In other words, there is perfection of individuals and perfection of a nation. Perfection of individuals is when they acquire das, intellect, and midos. Asher afagav shlegiat hevel meloa lezeh hashleimus ad achar zman rav achar bria shmai v'aretz. That even though it took a tremendous amount of time, in the 19th century they were still optimists. They think it's happening right around the corner. But it will translate time for the world to reach the level of true intellect and proper midos, which of course he thought, well, we're just about there now. So then, so too, it wasn't because in terms of bringing the nation to its ultimate creation, it's not complete until Matan Torah. He says, he says even today, Yesh arbei bnei adam shelo hagiu lezeh ma'ila. There are many people who haven't reached perfection of intellect and midos tovos. It's so sad. All these people, that's the way it's happy for them that they didn't see the Holocaust. Okay, but, do you want to say something?
No, saying many as if he's saying like not most people, there's many.
Right, there are many, right, yes. Mikol makom hadavar muskal gam umos olam. It's clear also to the nations of the world, the rak zeyot achlis malas adam, that ultimate purpose of mankind is to accomplish great intellect and great character. Okay, v'kach yesh la'amin, and so too we have to believe. Even the Torah and its laws were only given much later, after the exodus from Egypt. And many Jews even today have not reached Das Torah, right? The purpose of Torah. Nevertheless, the Torah is the only Torah can be considered to be the pinnacle and purpose of the great level of the great lofty level of Jewish people, which is what? What is our great lofty level? Shenotzu livris am Ohr LaGoyim. They're made for a covenant of nation with a covenant with our nation to be a light unto the nations. The purpose of Am Yisrael, he says, is to be a light unto the nations. I don't know why people don't realize this. It's something which you think is somehow forgotten. Certainly Rabbi Rottenberg forgot that, but it's forgotten in many places and many times.
Probably post-Holocaust.
What? Yeah, it is post-Holocaust. That's true. You raise a good point. And he says this later on in Perikut Beis Pasuk Lunav. That's next week's parsha. Not this week's, next week's, but Parshas Bo. It says, Vayhi be'etzem Yoseh, Tzia Hashem es b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim al tzivosam. On this day, Kodesh Baruch, God took the Jews out of Egypt on their armies. Al tzivosam, on their armies. So the Netziv there says, V'yoser nachon, it's more accurate, L'faresh, to explain Al Tivasam Milashon Halot Tzava Le'anosh Alei Oretz. There is a mission for people on this land. The Mashma'o, which means Kol Enosh Notzar L'Tachliso. Every individual is created for his purpose. Zeu Tzvo, and that is called his Tzava. V'chein so Notru, and so too the Jews were created. Lios, to be what? The oath to be, come on, Ohr LaGoyim. What are you guys, thick morons? Okay.
I'd stay quiet because no one says. I'm like, this is a whole class prank. What's going on?
To be an Ohr LaGoyim, to be a light unto the nations. That's what we're here for.
When David stayed quiet, I was just like, all right, I gotta chill.
Lamidam al Yedias Elokei Olam. To bring the nations of the world to the knowledge of the God of the world. Avram Avinu, like Avram Avinu, who is called Av HaMongoyim, the father of many nations. Because that was his purpose, to bring the light of God to the world, as he wrote in Bereshit Yud Zayin Daled, 17:4. And for this purpose, Tzirei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem added also the mitzvah of Mila Avram Avinu. K'mosh Sham Mikra test there, as Rinna explains there how the Bris Milah adds to this purpose in the world. As long as the Jews were in exile, they're also uncircumcised. They didn't reach their mission. And now when they went out to be the nation of God, and they also got Bris Milah, they all reached their purpose. For that purpose which they were created on this earth. Yes?
What what does the Nasiv say practically Jews should do to be Ohr LaGoyim?
I think the Netziv did not have a problem. If you the Netziv in and of himself would be an Ohr LaGoyim. Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach would be an Ohr LaGoyim. Reb Moshe Feinstein would be an Ohr LaGoyim. I don't know if you have to, once you know Gdolei Yisrael, true Gdolei Yisrael, not the fake ones. So once you know the true Gdolei Yisrael, then you know what it means to be an Ohr LaGoyim. I'm not trying to evade the question. I always tell people the most important, one second, wait, I'm not finished. Most important book to read about Orthodox Judaism, the manual of how to be an Ohr LaGoyim is, have I told you this? A tzaddik in our time. You know the book? That you don't know what Orthodox Judaism is? Because Orthodox Judaism is only defined, it can only be understood by people who read it, but tzaddik in our time. Tzaddik in our time is about Rabbi Aryeh Levin, who was the great tzaddik Yerushalayim in the middle of the 20th century, and he is the role model for what it means to be an Ohr LaGoyim. No, I'm not trying. I don't mean to insult you.
Right. No, I understand.
It's just a
saying
plus.
It's I mean, you see people say sometimes like Ohr LaGoyim means in a spiritual sense that we like minister to the nations, like our services that we, whether they kind of, it ranges from like whether they realize it or not to like, Chabad Sheva Mitzvah They Know campaigns.
Right. None of that is that. None of that is it. But if you read about Rabbi Aryeh Levin, when he went to visit the Jewish prisoners in the British jails, he also visited the non-Jewish prisoners. And not just the non-Jewish prisoners, non-Jewish women prisoners. And then in 1967, when they came to contact again, these women came to him as if he was their father, the non-Jewish Muslim women. Then you begin to understand what it means to be an Ohr LaGoyim.
Okay.
Read the book. Okay? I'm not on that level. I'm not even an Ohr for Jews, let alone for Goyim. But and that's part of our problem. But I see there were people like this who walked out the earth. Now, before we finish, because it's late, somebody wrote me and asked me to say this in my shiurim. So it's in the shiur. So I'm going to say it to you. This is from a Sfaradi. Sorry, from Edot HaMizrach. Your anti-racism shiurim are great. Can you mention that even in Israel there is discrimination? Here is another form of racism. When Haredi Jews don't acknowledge other sector Rabbanim. I live in Beit Shemesh, and in some of the schools you will see many pictures of Rabbanim, but they never put up pictures of Sephardi or Yemenite Rabbanim.
That's right.
Whereas if you go to the Sephardi schools, they will celebrate many Ashkenazi Rabbanim. I feel this is another form of racism. Interesting. Okay? Then he writes, to not finish it. Please also mention about how they have quotas to get into schools. He would have enjoyed this year.
Yeah, who knows?
You would have enjoyed tonight's year. Maybe you should watch on YouTube. Please also.
You would like it. You like it.
Yeah. No. But we're past the point. You would have liked. Please also mention about how they have quotas to get into schools, making it hard for Sephardim to get in. I understand the school wants to keep minhagim, etc. My other issue is that the funding in many cities to build Sephardi schools is much lower than in the Haredi sector. I guess he means Ashkenazi Haredi sector, which will result in Sephardim not having places to get into at the end, hence leading to a big off-the-derech rate. That was the second thing. And the third thing was, also in the Haredi sector in Israel, many Sephardim who are very Haredi are ashamed totally of their heritage. And this has a massive
Hey, someone's calling me out.
massive chain effect on the 90% of the other Haredim. In other words, the leaders of many Sephardi communities will try and integrate into the wide circle and won't help the other Sephardim build schools. In other words, if you're an elite Sephardi person, you're going to want to get into an Ashkenazi school. And you're not going to want to try and start a good Sephardi school for the other Sephardim because that would just relegate you to being a Sephardi forever. So so this is this is a good problem which I have recognized for many years and I've spoken about for many years. And in fact, I started my group on Facebook as a result of this problem. And yes, it is certainly a problem which Ashkenazi Jews have. And it's I am 100% Ashkenazi, 50% German, 50% Lithuanian. But I really cannot speak from experience But there is definitely a form of racism and a form of elitism and all sorts of negative things which Am Yisrael has to overcome. Otherwise, Mashiach is never going to come. Okay, that's the end for this evening. Well, he has to come eventually. It's not a pleasant way, and not necessarily anytime soon. Yes, he will come. Because I'll say either Dor Shekul Chayav or Dor Shekul can be Dor Shekul Zakai, Dor Shekul Chayav. It could be a meritorious generation or the opposite, and Mashiach will come one way or the other. But it's not pretty the other way. Okay, I think we've gone through the topic of racism enough. We can go back to some other topic. Any other questions before we leave this topic behind?
What do you think about the people who are Sephardi and decide to go on this path? Is there anything wrong with choosing something like this?
You know, there's a similarity. Mark Twain has a book, I forget the name of the book, about how two babies were switched at birth, and they looked identical. But one was from had white parentage, and the other had black parentage. They looked the same, though, because the blacks, by that time, looked very light. And how they were switched at birth, and therefore the kid was black, grew up white, the kid was white, grew up black, and then finally they found out, and it was a horrific scandal. So the point is that, yes, there are many people who try to pass themselves off as something else, and you can't judge them, you know. I understand that they see that way there is the way for them to, in a racist or a prejudiced society, that's a way for them to get ahead. There is somebody here who's a Rosh Yeshiva and a certain yeshiva, who I knew many years ago, and his original name was a Moroccan name. I'm not going to say the real name because I don't want to identify this, but let's say his name was Abu Lafia, okay? And then when he started going to Brisk and the other Ashkenazi yeshivas, he changed his name. Let's say he changed his name again. It's not the name. Abramowitz. And now he goes by Abramowitz. And he gets better shidduchim for his kids because he goes to call the Abramowitz. And he gets better kids in the better schools because they're Abramowitz. Who am I to judge him? What am I supposed to say?
So do you think the society, or Jewish society as a whole, elitist or racist?
Not as a whole. I think in Israel, I think it's only in ultra-Orthodox
Would you
societies.
say at least elitist? Yeah.
Only in ultra-Orthodox circles. That's why he said Haredi society. I think in general Israeli society, it might still exist, but it's much less of a problem. I think in certainly non-Orthodox Jewish society in America it doesn't exist at all.
But in regards to that being a problem in the ultra-Orthodox world, I mean, a lot of my circle is the ultra-Orthodox world. Someone who is part of both of these circles, how do you fix it? At the end of the day, yeah, we acknowledge it exists, but like, how do you go about it? Especially someone like me who comes from a Sephardi background. Putting you on the spot, I'm sorry.
No, I don't have the answer. Many years ago, it's like 25 years ago, somebody asked me, why are you not doing anything about all these problems? So I said, Judaism is Orthodox Judaism is in order to be a leader, you have to be an octogenarian.
Who?
Over 80. If you're under 80, you don't count. So I said, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps me alive till I'm 80, maybe I'll be able to change things. So it's not easy to change unless you're a leader in the right position.
Yeah.
What?
80?
80. Yeah.
Oh, you're way ahead of me.
The 80 is the new 60. Once upon a time, you could have that impact when you got to 60, but you can't anymore. It's the 80-year-olds. Yeah.
So, I mean, I was thinking about this. I don't know if you could really call that racism necessarily. For example, the idea of in the sense that there's it's a known fact that like the Ashkenazi world nowadays is more dominant in terms of learning institutions and things like that. It wasn't always the case. Like it used to be that Ashkenazi students would go down from France to Spain to learn in the great Sephardi yeshivas.
Right.
And they're I think the Rosh also became sort of Sfartized. So it's not like people were like so racist against Ashkenazim that he became Sephardi. Like people just, if the culture is that and that like the Torah of this particular community is dominant, so that's going to be who you want
Listen,
to emulate.
all this comes in from the non-Jewish world. It comes in from the non-Jewish world where the Europeans look down at everybody else in the world. Europeans look down at Arabs. Europeans look down at Africans. Yeah, of course.
I really don't buy that because.
Yeah, why? That's what it came about. When the 19th century,
That makes sense.
in the 19th century, when the British and the French and the German and the Russians, they're all colonialists. They look down at everybody else.
That they like. Well, what's the actual reason? Like, why, for example, the question, like, why don't they? This person in the email is complaining about, perhaps justly, about them not having pictures of Sephardic Edot. You know, I mean, just by numbers, there's like less big Sephardi rabbis than there are Ashkenazi rabbis.
Not
In the modern day.
Right, but not
in
as
the late affluent period, there's more Ashkenazi Gedolim. I'm sorry, that's what it is. It's true.
Listen, there are many ways. You might be, but there are many ways things to go. Like you can complain about how there are no pictures of Rav Kook and Rabbi Soloveitchik and Rav Sham Shafal Hirsch.
That's a hashkafa thing. It's not racism. They're not racism against Zion. Like being Zionist is not race.
Right.
You know?
I'm saying in the picture
I'm saying you can disagree with this and that or the other.
Right.
I'm saying like it's not a racist thing. And like look, and it's true that in Israeli society, especially in the 60s to the 80s, there was genuine racial discrimination. There might be still cases of. I'm saying like.
I'm not sure what we're disagreeing on. I lost what we're disagreeing on.
I'm saying some of the examples that this person mentioned, which I think some of them may be racist or have racist intentions under them, but I think he's presenting a bigger problem than there actually is in terms of racism against Sephardim. Like, you know.
You ever watch the Gaiva clip? No?
I don't know what Gaiva is. I mean, I know what Gaiva is, but not 3 times. I think you're already an expert.
I don't know if I have it here. I have to send it to you. I don't know if I have it on my external drive. Okay, I'm going to stop here. For those of you who missed the clip at the beginning, if you want me to play it for you now, it's a 2-minute clip.
Sure.